Hello, everybody. We are now live. I have to say hello to everybody, including the audience. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, based on your location from where you're joining. Welcome to the second day of the Citizen Development Week. We had yesterday two amazing sessions, the kickoff and a panel session regarding empowering digital transformation through citizen development. And today in this panel session, we're going to focus more on hyperautomation, strategies, challenges, and best practices. My name is Antigone. I have a pleasure to be a panelist, but also moderator in today's session. So I'm wearing double hats. And together with me, I have Steve, who is the CEO of TAP, the Agile Application Platform, and I have Dinesh, who is the Chief Product Officer at Kissflow. I'll give the word to you in a minute to introduce yourself, both Steve and Dinesh. What I would like you to mention is to mention where you're joining from today, as we are having this global session, to explain a little bit what is your current role and also what brings you to hyperautomation, what brings you to this session, and how are you connected to hyperautomation. Ladies first, so I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Antigone. Since January, I am founder and CEO of Necode, which is an application focused on performance, governance, and monitoring of low-code and no-code tools. Previously to founding Necode, I have been tech lead for intelligent automation at ING. That included RPA and the rest of the technologies on top of it for process automation. And in the past 2 years, I have built up the Citizen Development Center of Excellence at ING. I am based in the Netherlands. I'm calling in from Amsterdam, and I will just invite Dinesh to share about you next.
Yeah, thanks, Antigone. Hello, everyone. I'm Dinesh. I am from the Chennai, the southern part of India, right? Doing citizen development for the last 2 decades, right? Slightly more surprising because we started off with a vision to democratize computing. Of course, it actually took different avatars to call the citizen development right now, right? So, of course, many of our customers are like transforming from simple digitization to complete digital transformation using hyperautomation, right? So, I want to probably talk about some use cases, examples, and of course, want to listen from you and Steve as well about your thoughts on hyperautomation.
Thank you, Dinesh. Steve?
Thank you. Hello, I'm Steve Higgin. I'm actually currently in Dubai at the JISEC event, but TAP, the Agile Application Platform, we're normally based and operating out of the UK. We're a global technology provider, and like Dinesh, we've been operating in this space for 2 decades, originally founded in 2004. We're an agile application platform that allows organizations to use no-code technologies to build applications at enterprise scale. And again, we'll cover off a little bit more of that during the conversation. Thank you.
Awesome. Great to be here with both of you today. So on the session, what we're going to cover is, first of all, we're going to start with what is hyperautomation, highlighting its distinction from traditional automation. We're going to go into some use cases like Dinesh mentioned, and we are going to take a further look into the future, what is happening today with technologies like AI, how are they influencing hyperautomation, and what steps are companies taking towards adapting to the change. A few rules that I would like to mention for the audience. Well, we would like this session to be interactive, so I believe you have a small icon for a chat where you can ask questions. We're going to come back to those questions towards the end of this panel discussion. And so we will try to cover as many of your questions. So please just be active and ask questions. And for our panelists, I would like to mention that as I'll be moderating and asking questions, please feel free to jump in and answer the question in any of you. We are a small panel, so I think we'll manage successfully. So to start with, hyperautomation. There are so many terms out there nowadays: hyperautomation, intelligent automation, so many definitions, so many acronyms. What is, according to you, hyperautomation, and how is it different from traditional IT?
Okay, so automation is just a optimized way of managing the human task. Right, you have set of tasks the humans perform to get the job done, and people started automating anything that is repeatable and predictable. All right, so they created a system, they defined the rules, they streamlined the process, and the systems automated the whole process. That's how it actually started off, right? Mostly the digitalization part of it, right? But again, there is no big difference because the system exactly replicates what the humans were doing for a very long time, right? If there are like 5 steps involved in getting job done, instead of humans doing it, we actually introduced systems like very basic RPAs, or we have process automation tools, right? Which actually streamlines the whole process and helps the user or assists the user in getting the work done. Hyperautomation is far more sophisticated, right? It is not about just replicating what the humans were doing. Rather, it is about automating the end-to-end work itself, right? It's about even eliminating steps in the process, right? It is about even eliminating human touch points in the process using AI and ML. And the AI ML also brings in a larger context, right? So by making it with the larger context, systems are far more intelligent as well, right? That's the basic difference between hyper automation and traditional automation. In traditional automation, the human is replaced by a system and the process remains the same, right? In hyper automation, to a larger extent, even the humans are replaced by agents.
That's a scary point, so let's not touch it yet. We are just at the beginning of our discussion. So, Steve, what is hyperautomation for you?
So for us, TAP is an agile application platform. And to kind of set the context, if you think about actually what the software industry has been for the last 50 to 70 years, it's been about implementation. And the time it takes to actually implement software is obviously a significant aspect of actually the cost of actually not only creating the software, but maintaining it and managing it until you basically have to then start again because the technology has changed so significantly. For us, hyperautomation is now actually around actually moving from that phase of implementation to knowledge engineering and actually tapping into AI and large language models. And to that extent, and again, coming back to the point of why we were invited to this, it's because we're now at a stage now where we can now create designs and then from that generate enterprise scale applications in less than 60 seconds using generative technology. So now we're actually moving to a phase of hyper automation and hyper agility where organizations now can actually then make use of IT teams working much more closely with the business to deliver more value. And for us, that's actually where we think the future is going to be because everyone is now embracing AI, understanding about large language models, machine ML, ops, and this is the future of actually kind of organizational kind of change. So that's for us kind of how we see hyper automation, and this is then moving beyond those technologies like RPA, which were really stopgap technologies while actually systems actually was struggling with the appropriate open APIs to allow inter-exchange between systems. So again, it's a very exciting topic and obviously one for discussion here.
Thank you. I come from the industry, I come from an enterprise perspective of banking. So for us, hyperautomation is indeed going beyond process automation, as both of you mentioned, process automation like the traditional one, that we are repeating the actions of a human in a machine, but allowing the algorithm, allowing the tools to think for themselves, to take decisions which are based on the knowledge that the data is transmitting them to learn from. And there is so much knowledge out there in enterprises and also in the world that we as humans sometimes we're not even capable of understanding and learning on the same pace as an algorithm is and as an AI is. Which brings me to the second point and to the second question of what technologies are we talking about when we talk hyper automation. AI, you mentioned AI and machine learning and large language models. Can you go into a little bit more detail on what practically are you?
Sure. I'll probably agree with Steve on one point, right? I don't want to have RPA in the equation, right? RPA is a system that is designed to manage systems that can't talk to each other, right? So there's a front-end integration, and especially if you talk about the future of hyperautomation, I am not able to see RPA in that, right? Rather, it's AI and ML, right? If I'm going to create a system, it is not about, as Antigone said, right? It's not about replicating the human processes, right? It is about you have an outcome that you expect out from the system, and you need to look backward with a new set of eyes, with the help of an AML, how am I going to optimize the whole process to achieve a better outcome, right? That's what that's the strength of having AML as in the equation of hyperautomation, right? We'll take a very simple example. Assume that we are going for a vacation, right? We need to actually book. First, we need to define an itinerary, and then we need to book flights. A very simple example, right? Then we need to book hotels that aligns with the itinerary, and then you need to look for deals, stay, food, and everything, right? If you look at a traditional automation, all of these are independent workflows. You book tickets, then the human as an individual, I need to look at the hotels that aligns with the tickets. I need to design an itinerary based on the travel dates. So I need to do a lot of work around all these independent process so that all of these can work together, right? And if AIML is introduced as part of this equation, right, it pretty much understands everything around the dates, the flights, the hotels, food, and the itinerary, right? It can connect all this together and get me something that is optimized for my requirements. This is
And when
not
you
just
mention AI, you mean you are referring to Gen AI, or are you referring to broader? To break it down for
broader.
our
It's
audience.
broader. It's not just Gen AI, right? Gen AI, of course, plays a very important role. But
Mm-hmm.
again, uh, we are talking about like the huge data that we have as part of the enterprises, and the AI systems that understands the data forms a larger context, right? And of course, LLM and Gen AI comes into play where the users can directly talk to the system and get the insights that helps them in making the decisions. All of these things work together, right, to achieve a single outcome that is like super optimized. Humans can never process this larger context, right? And this larger context helps the system in making better decisions, right? That's how AI, ML, LLMs, and Gen AI is transforming the hyper automation landscape right now.
Thank you. Steve, what is your view?
Well, I think it's one of these things that people are, I think, a little bit starstruck by or in awe of AI. They think AI is going to solve everything for them and is going to solve every problem without them doing anything. And really, AI is just a tool. It's a technology that actually, if you understand how to use it effectively, and allow you to actually then do more quickly, and actually learn how to use the technology in a more effective way. So it's not really about actually kind of humans offloading their intellect to AI. It's about using it to do more faster and to actually then create more effective applications. And what we're seeing is that actually AI is helping people with the ideation, the understanding of what they're trying to do, and actually how they can build better applications going forwards.
And how do we? I fully agree with both of you. And again, coming from an enterprise, I know that it's becoming more and more difficult not only choose the right tool for your process automation, but also choosing the right process for automation. Where does it start and where does it end? Because you talked about automating end-to-end processes. So what do you think? How do you think it should be approached from the company level that are coming to learn now so much about AI and about all this technology, about hyperautomation? What would be their starting point?
I think the issue is that people take the view that if they start AI, they've done it. They're now doing AI. AI is a journey, and at the moment, it's still very early days in terms of large language models. But for machine learning, this has been going on for decades. So depending on the nature of the technology that you're actually engaging with, you're going to find that you're going to be on a journey of discovery. And as we move forwards and the large language models and the tools get better, so actually will people's insight to how to use it will improve as well.
Thank you. Dinesh, do you have a view on it?
So mostly I probably have suggest a shortcut, right? Because if you look at the digital transformation, there is a huge difference between how the digital native organizations approach the transformation or process transformation, all right? Then a traditional companies approach a process transformation, all right? For example, if you look at a company that is starting today to solve logistics as a problem, right? The way they think about the whole process is different than an existing logistic provider trying to use AI and ML and hyperautomation to solve the same process, right? So if I am going to start a hyperautomation journey in my organization, I will rather look at a competitor who is digitally native or a new age competitor, try to see how they are optimizing the whole process that is core to my business, right? I will not actually start with the smaller use cases. Of course, there are quick wins, but I may not actually get the outcomes that I expect from this transformation, right? So rather, if I'm able to pick a problem that actually gets me the maximum outcome that is possible, right? Then there is a significant motivation and to be part of this journey, right? This journey is not easy, right? It is not like one day I will reimagine how I do business and then I'm done with it. It is iterative, right? I need to go through this journey, and there should be a significant motivation for me to go through the journey, and the outcome should be significantly bigger as well, right? So if I am doing it, I'll probably look at my competitor who is like starting today, and then see how they are looking at the whole problem.
Yeah, I fully agree, especially on the part that you mentioned that the smaller and the ones starting from now, they do have a competitive advantage of doing things better, just because of not having all this depth of having the process as is. And to add on top of that, I think it's very important, like Dinesh mentioned, to know what is the core of your business, what are the processes that add the most value to your business. So then you know you discover those processes first before starting to automating the just actions that users are currently taking. And yeah, that is a very important step. And what about I mean, in this call today, and I'm sure in the audience from people watching, there are people who are implementing this platform, this solution, who have taken on the hat of bringing the change for hyperautomation in their companies, who are bringing in different tools. How do you suggest they would go about the tool selections? What would be their starting point, right? Because it is a journey indeed, but how do you go when you don't have anything in place to start this journey? What is the first tool that you look for?
Personally, I think part of the problem is the huge array of choice, and the challenges that actually we're all going to have is that because AI is changing at such a pace, and each company is leapfrogging the other, whatever technology you base a decision on today, you're almost guaranteed that within 12 to 18 months, you'll be looking at something new. And this was actually some advice I got from a former head of Microsoft. He said, there's never a good time not to get into AI. And the problem is that whatever you learn today will be significantly different in 18 months' time. And I think that's something that actually organizations need to recognize, because you don't want to penalize the developers for starting to learn about AI and then scold them in 18 months' time when they've got to do something again new or something changes. It needs to be recognized that this is a journey of ongoing development that actually IT teams and the businesses need to understand is a journey of discovery.
Yeah.
So more than the tool, right? It is about the mindset of people who go through the journey, right? Because as Steve said, this market is evolving at a rapid pace, right? So if the mindset is about agility, how fast I'm able to change, iterate, right? And then the tools are easy, right? Like so many tools to fill the gaps. Once you know what you're going to solve, and once you have a structure that makes you extremely agile in this transformation, right? The tools might change, but you are able to immediately adapt to the change and then move forward.
I guess
Right.
it depends on actually how much you've been training models on your data. Because if you're
Yeah.
with tool vendor A and you've invested a lot of time training a model, and then actually tool vendor B comes along and it's better, it's about retraining that. And so the balance is actually a careful stepping stone, so you don't back one horse so much that you lose out in the future. And I think
Yeah.
that's a challenge for all of us at the moment, to make sure that when we actually are leveraging and utilizing AI, we have the appropriate architectural plugin in place to be able to switch fairly easily, but without getting handcuffed to a technology that we really wish we hadn't.
Exactly, and I do see some organizations which are stepping back in the sense that they are waiting to see how the AI revolution will get shaped in the coming months. But we also do have a lot more modular approach, also including, for example, the LLMs that you can plug and play with any of those tools. Replacing those easier. Also, the machine learning models you can also replace easier, and as you see. A lot of comparisons between the models, who is performing better, who is doing better, and that is a great thing that is happening to make the technology even more mature, in the sense that, okay, we have reached this phase that now this is how our models look like, and this is the phase that companies will feel a bit more confident to start implementing the solutions, because this mature state is seen in the technology. What I would like to ask you, I would like to jump more towards the low code, no code part of automation, and with modular design. I think that is very close to what we are talking about. How does hyperautomation and low code, no code get along together? What is the connection point?
From our perspective, we found that actually traditional software development is actually a kind of a process, whether it's agile or whether it's waterfall, is a journey of the end user describing what they want to a business analyst or a project team, and then there's this whole coding cycle that actually then goes through. We've now got to the point where actually that traditional way of actually implementation is actually no longer required. You can now take a high order design and machine generate a complete enterprise application with single sign-on and with role-based permissions and security. And what that does is it completely changes the mentality and the modality for how businesses work. Because even with no code and low code, where you manually generating that, there's still a finite amount of time. When you now start building enterprise applications where the app is built in 60 seconds, it changes your mindset, because now that's all been machine generated, bug-free, and you can then feed that back to users that can log in and then regenerate as they start to add more features and functionality. And I think that's the exciting part about where this technology is moving. It's about actually moving away from implementation to more data and knowledge engineering. So that's, I think, is the kind of the real next step, which obviously leverages large language models and ML, but it's actually just it's the time for the market to actually accept it. as we've both been doing this for 20 years, the point is that the market and the IT teams weren't ready for it. Now they are, and they're open to actually kind of taking this technology and driving it forward at a pace, because they want to work much more closely and much more effectively with a business, and no longer be supporting a backlog of technology where actually they have then heavy maintenance and technical debt as well. So where you've now got technologies that are eliminating maintenance and reducing technical debt, it means that they can work much more closely with the business and actually be heroes to the business, so that actually they can embrace change as opposed to seeing it as a problem.
I love your enthusiasm, but I see the world a little bit more blurred than you see it. What makes you think that IT is ready for this change?
Because we're actually being approached by IT. It was actually an issue for us, and has been for quite some time. IT obviously have actually always focused actually on the whole process of implementation, what programming languages and frameworks, it's quite a focus for them. But now with actually large language models and the whole acceleration of actually people embracing data, they're wanting to now accelerate and be a lot more agile and reactive. Also, particularly eliminating legacy maintenance. Any developer that's worked on a number of projects carries that round on their back as something they've got to look after, or the organization that owns that has to then carry that debt to a point where actually eventually there's not a return on investment to actually continue, and you start again. But with modern technologies that are using this, you can now move forward and focus on actually on positive innovation, as opposed to carrying around legacy. So those are the reasons why we know, because actually we're delivering it to customers on scale in very many industries and sectors. It's a very exciting time.
Yeah. What is your experience with this topic, Dinesh? What would bring the let's say successful implementation, but also what Steve was talking about, that IT is approaching and embracing this change towards AI and machine generated applications.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about a very simple analogy, right? A smartphone, photography and smartphones. Like 20 years back, the photographer used to take photographs because they know how to process the film, right? And with the smartphones, everyone is a photographer. But still, we need photographers for wildlife photography or for candid photography, right? So photography as a specialization still exists, but everyone can take photographs. It's the same with the low-code technologies as well, right? IT
It's
is
beautiful.
still needed to create mission-critical systems. But again, if you look at business, they are closer to the problem. People who are closer to the problem know how to solve it better, right? And if I have a tool that understands my language, instead of me talking that language, the system language, right? Then I will get the work done directly from the system without having a translator in between. Translators are the programmers or the IT teams, right? And that's the evolution of programming right now. And that evolution is no code and low code, right?
Absolutely, fully agree. But with all this power and all this change, it also come great risk, right? Do you recognize any risks, and do you think we have some ways to tackle them?
Well,
And that's,
I think risk. Oh, sorry, Dinesh, after you.
yeah. The still is the within the scope of low code, no code platforms, right? Because when you define the platform, you of course define the guardrails. You still have the governance layers, which prevents the users from making mistakes, right? IT will still have control. They still define the perimeter and defend the perimeter, but within that, the business have absolute freedom to get their work done without like depending on IT, right? So you need to still have governance layers, but within that, the business should have absolute control or independence to get their work done.
So governance is your key element. What about you, Steve, on the risk, and how can we eliminate those?
Well, I think part of the kind of real kind of popular rise in no-code and low-code technologies was the sheer backlog that professional developers had in terms of implementing software. And so as a consequence, obviously tooling came in place to actually allow kind of subject matter experts to then get involved in the development process. But as we all understand, it's about, you need to understand about the data, how it scales, It's not as simple as that. But now when you start moving towards actually technologies that actually allow you to build applications incredibly quickly, that now means you've actually then got professional IT resource that can work incredibly closely with the business. And rather than turning every employee in the business into a programmer, you can now actually then have the IT teams provide guidance and nurturing to deliver more faster. But of course, during that process, then the IT teams can actually then work with the business to provide the guardrails so that actually subject matter experts who are looking to understand more about technology and data can embrace it. So I think the risk is actually becoming less and less diminished, more and more diminished, sorry, so that actually IT can support the business so that everyone wins together. It's not us and them, it's us together, which actually then is a win for everyone.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that is also we haven't mentioned it per se, the term citizen development, but exactly what you are describing here is IT and business working together is also citizen development, and this is because we are also in the citizen development week. How do you see the future trends? I mean, we are talking a lot about the future trends and what AI will do to the industry. But practically speaking, how do you think enterprises and also small and medium companies can embrace this change? What would be their way to go?
Well, personally, from my perspective, the technology is now available that you can just click and install. You have your own copy of it. You can start to then create environments within minutes that you can then scale actually in the cloud, which actually then encourages organizations to no longer worry about what is software and how do you develop it. And because actually the tooling is now so sophisticated and so guided towards actually helping you build applications, rather than the professional teams worrying about what is it they're using, what chaos am I going to inherit for actually the citizen developers, it's allowing people to work much more aligned together to do more together and be more effective. And I think that's the key point, is the fact that where it used to be a challenge to get your own copy of a technology or a platform, or you had to sit in a SaaS environment and put your data into the cloud, that's no longer an issue anymore. And more people are obviously wanting to have their data in their space using their language models to then give them their advantage, and obviously then to be able to then embrace digital transformation. So I think it's a really exciting time. And again, coming back to Dinesh's point about guardrails, too many organizations actually don't help citizen development to actually work closely with the business to actually then make sure that everyone benefits. And that's, I think, for me, is the kind of the catalyst of change where we are at the moment.
Yeah, but the organizations are made out of people, and those people who are in charge sometimes don't know the benefits, the challenges. They don't know how the guardrails work or how to implement that, and that's a big part, the training and the awareness of what the technology can do and how we can make it successful implementation. In my view,
that's a
is
very good point.
important.
Absolutely, very good point. Many of the people that we talk to at C-level, they just assume that software is expensive and it carries on being developed in the way it always has. And they're just unaware of actually the advances in technologies like these that actually are allowing them to do more faster, quicker, and embrace change. So totally agree.
Something to add, Dinesh?
Mostly I'm seeing, I think the systems will disappear, all right? Even right now, if you look at citizen development, there is a little bit of learning curve. They need to still understand systemic artifacts like forms, artifacts like workflows, all right? But again,
Mm-hmm.
those systems will get delegated to the background, and citizen developers will talk to systems like they talk to humans, right?
Absolutely.
Unless you bridge this gap, the semantic gap, right, of how the users and system talk to each other, citizen development cannot flourish. Right now, it is in a much better shape because systems are extremely simple for few business users to understand and use it to solve their problems. But with an advent of Gen AI and LLMs, the systems is going to reach out to the business users and make pretty much every business user a citizen developer, right? Right now, the tools are simple, but still the business users need to think or formulate their thought process like they are working with the system. That need to change, right? If that changes, the whole paradigm of citizen development will flourish. And that's what I see as how the citizen development is going to evolve in the next few years.
Absolutely, and it's already has started to shape that way, and especially with the new generation of business people or workers who are becoming more digitally savvy and more aware of the tools that are out there. And what I see is that often these tools are used for personal. In the personal life, in the personal processes, and then when you come to work, why can you not use the same? And you don't want to take a step back when you are in a organization environment because it is not yet supported or not yet allowed to use. Well, thank you so much both for your thoughts and your insight. It was really insightful to hear from both of you and from a different perspective from Kissflow and TAP and Enterprise. I would like to open the floor to the questions from the audience, but let me see how I can see that. There is a question from Matt. Hi, Matt. Thank you. Nice to see you in this session, first of all, and thank you for the question. Steve, Steve, this question is for you, so I'm going to read it out loud. I don't know if you can see it in the screen as well. So Matt is saying, Steve, I didn't catch the beginning, but I came in when you were talking about technical debt being less of an issue today. Maybe you already said it, but what is different today that makes technical debt less of an issue?
Yes. So, hi, Matt. So the point that I was talking about was the fact that actually the technology has now moved to the point where actually we have not only high order programming languages for developing no-code applications, but we've moved that to such an extent now that we can actually have high order designs that actually allow us to then use generative technology to build applications. And those applications, once built, are created on platforms that will then run for 5, 10, or 20 years. And these are fundamentally different to the way in which obviously software is traditionally developed, where if you sat down with a developer today and said, right, build me an application. Oh, and by the way, it must be able to run for as long as I want it to, 5, 10, or 20 years, without any cost and with reducing technical debt, you would suddenly find that actually that project becomes enormous to be able to do that. And with modern application platforms like TAP and others, what this allows organizations to do is now build applications that can run for 5, 10, or 20 years. And what this then means is that rather than the traditional challenge of actually having an application built and then a few months later having to get somebody else back in to make some maintenance changes who didn't understand what the previous application was, and maybe the programming frameworks have changed, or the experience of the person who built it is actually different to the person who originally created it, all of that chaos gone. You can now actually then build applications and then run them for effectively without any maintenance, allowing any changes to occur to be a positive incremental change because it's around innovation. So that's actually the tail end of the question that, or the comments that we were talking about. Hopefully that answers, Matt, for you what we were talking about.
I hope that answer your questions, Matt. If not, I believe Steve will be up for continuing the chat later. I'll go to question from Yugal. Maybe you can put it in the screen. What metrics should the organization use to measure the impact of hyperautomation with their CD programs, and how do these metrics align with the broader business objectives? I would like to pick up this question since I'm coming from an organization. I would have to say that at the beginning of hyperautomation or using any intelligent tools in the processes, it is always about showcasing the success stories. So people build this awareness that it can also work this way. And the success stories is not per se about the metrics, about time saving, but really changing the mindset that this is working. and the more success stories you have, the better it is for the organization. And then there are different metrics on measuring the digital transformation journey as a whole, because hyperautomation, it is part of this digital transformation journey, which can include the people that are trained, the processes where you have some assets which are implementing smarter solutions, or the amount of let's say, tasks or documents, emails processed, a decision taken by AI instead of having the human in loop. So that would be my 2 cents. Maybe Dinesh, you have something to add?
I, probably, as you actually said, right? At least for the citizen development program to be successful, it is about the number of spreadsheets and emails that are reduced because of city program, right? When the users move away from these tools and they start creating these small use cases, right, using a citizen development platform, that's the good starting point. Of course, the Gen AI or AI allows them to create a system that reduces the amount of work they do, because system actually do it for them, and it actually provides insights for them to take better decisions, right? So I need to anyway do the approval, for example, but how does the system give me the insight without me defining anything, which actually allows me to take a better decision, right? These are the two metrics I want to actually see in the hyper automation journey. For citizen development program, it's about number of applications that are created by the citizen developers. At least that's a good starting point.
Yeah. I see Matt is continuing the conversation on the technical debt, which is about, Steve, I guess you can pick this up. It is about what makes an application around 5, 10, 20 years when in the past they couldn't. What has changed now?
It's basically, as Matt's kind of alluded to, there's an architectural layer that actually means that actually, rather than worrying about what programming framework or programming language you're using, you've created an abstraction layer, hence the no-code model. And this abstraction then allows you to then describe at a business level the processes, the transformation, the data, the capture, how you're writing it to databases, but do it in such a way that it's abstracted from the underlying programming, which actually then means that actually you are now protected from change. Historically, people have obviously built applications using variations of frameworks, different versions of Angular, different versions of React, and this is particularly more to do with low code. But as those technologies move forward, they obviously break or they change. By creating an appropriate abstraction, not only does it mean that the applications can run longer, but it's actually easier for large language models to understand those abstractions and then machine generate applications, which is, again, coming back to the points that we talked about earlier, allowing organizations to then leverage AI as a tool, and then to have it actually then take its knowledge and understanding of a subject matter and help you build applications. So it just accelerates the whole process with you in the middle as the subject matter expert, working with the IT teams to make sure that you get the benefit.
Thank you. I hope, Matt, that you have an answer to that. Unfortunately, I believe we are at the end of our session. We are running for 45 minutes. So I'll close it here. I'd like to thank you all for joining. Thanks to Dinesh and Steve for your insights today. The Citizen Development Week is this whole week, started yesterday and continues until Friday afternoon. So Friday afternoon for Europe, a different location, different time zone. Join as many sessions as you can. It's going to be great discussion in those sessions as well. I hope to see you in many of those sessions. There is a survey regarding citizen development, which you can find somewhere in the comments. Please, if you have the time, just take 5 minutes. I see the QR code in the screen. If you have the time, please just share your feedback with us. We would love to hear from you. And yeah, thanks again for joining, and see you in the other sessions.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Antigone. Thanks for a wonderful discussion. Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone.